A critical no call here that did not go the Knicks' way. Now, referees are taught to look up high, then down low. That right there is a landing zone foul that most of the time, when it's reviewed and it puts a player at risk, that would be his next flagrant foul. What I'm about to lay out is one of the wildest, most shocking endings to an NBA Finals ever. It goes way beyond just basketball. This isn't just about the score or who lifted the trophy. This is about everything that exploded after the final buzzer in San Antonio. The missed foul that had people yelling at their screens, the handshake line that never even happened, and a post-game exit that sent the entire basketball world into chaos. Jalen Brunson didn't just walk out of Frostbank Center with a ring and Finals MVP. He walked out looking like the guy who put Victor Wembanyama on blast when the pressure hit its peak. And here's the part everybody saw, but isn't saying loud enough. This series revealed a whole different side of Wembanyama when things got intense. All series long, Wembanyama played a super physical game against Brunson. We're talking bumps, elbows, tight defense, and using that massive 7'4" frame to apply pressure every second. And the refs, they let a lot of that contact slide again and again, with calls people expected just never coming. But when it was all over, when the Knicks pulled off another comeback and locked in their first title since 1973, Wembanyama didn't stick around for any sportsmanship moment. He walked straight off the court without shaking a single hand. Not one. And then it got even louder. In his final press conference of the season, he dropped 5 words that instantly lit up the internet. Appreciate y'all. See y'all never. That line alone had fans, analysts, and players all reacting at once. Today, we're breaking all of it down. The brilliance of Brunson, the ultra-physical play that pushed limits, the post-game moment that raised eyebrows, and what that final quote might actually say about Wembanyama's mindset right now. Stay with this because it runs deeper than it looks. To really understand why Game 5 felt so different, you have to rewind and see what Brunson was doing the entire series. This wasn't luck. This wasn't the Spurs collapsing. This was one player taking control and refusing to let go. Jalen Brunson carried the New York Knicks to a championship, straight up, and he did it the hard way against one of the most dominant defensive forces the league has ever seen. Game 5 in San Antonio, it was the perfect snapshot of the whole battle. Right from the tip, the Spurs came out aggressive, locked in, and ready to protect home court. The crowd inside Frostbank Center was loud, intense, and fully behind them as they jumped out to a 16-point lead that looked dangerous early. The Knicks couldn't buy a bucket at first, starting just 1 for 10 from the field. And in that rough stretch, Brunson was the only one keeping New York alive. He dropped 16 of the team's first 37 points in the first half, carrying the offense while everyone else struggled to find rhythm. By halftime, it turned into a gritty, physical, defensive showdown. Wembanyama was everywhere, blocking shots, controlling the paint, already stacking up 5 blocks early in the game. He was doing everything possible to slow Brunson down, but it just didn't work. Brunson kept pushing, kept attacking, and never backed off for a second. That's what makes him different. He doesn't get shaken, no matter who's in front of him, no matter how loud the crowd gets, no matter how tough the moment is. By the third quarter, Brunson had already dropped 30 of the Knicks' 65 points. Let that sink in. 30 points while the rest of the team struggled to stay consistent. His teammates were having a tough night, and Karl Anthony Towns was dealing with foul trouble that eventually took him out completely. Still, Brunson kept going, possession after possession, carrying the entire load. Then came the fourth quarter, and everything tightened up. Brunson already had 40 points, the game was tied, and less than 5 minutes remained. That's when he delivered the moment, driving in and hitting a go-ahead floater with just 65 seconds left that basically sealed it. Final score, 94-90. Knicks take it, series 4-1. Brunson finished with 45 points, setting a Knicks Finals record, and earned the Bill Russell Finals MVP without any debate at all. When the confetti dropped, Knicks fans in the arena were chanting his name so loud it echoed through the Spurs' own building. Think about that. New York just ended a 53-year championship drought, and it was led by a point guard that most people barely recognized a few years ago. That legendary Willis Reed moment finally has a modern-day match. But what really makes this run stand out isn't just the scoring or the stats. It's everything Brunson had to deal with during this series. The constant physical pressure, the missed calls, the borderline plays, and the way he stayed composed through all of it. That's what turned this into something bigger than just a championship run. It turned it into a statement. Let's get into the foul situation, because this is where things get messy and where opinions start clashing hard. Throughout this series, Victor Wembanyama made it clear his approach against Brunson wasn't just skill. It leaned heavily into physical pressure, and people noticed it more and more as the games went on. Go back to Game 3 at Madison Square Garden. There was a moment where Wembanyama shoved Brunson to the floor with both hands, and one of those hands clearly went up toward Brunson's neck and head area. That's the kind of play that, in most situations, gets reviewed instantly for a flagrant foul. But somehow, the refs missed it completely in real time. Even Richard Jefferson, live on the broadcast, reacted right away, saying it should have been a flagrant one. And what made it even more intense, Wembanyama laughed. He laughed right in Brunson's face as Brunson got up and stepped toward him. That moment stuck with a lot of people watching. The next day, the NBA actually admitted the mistake. Head of officiating Monty McCutcheon came out and said a foul was missed on that play. He explained it as a positioning issue. Two referees were locked onto the ball, and nobody caught the off-ball contact. So yes, they own the error, but here's the twist. They didn't upgrade it to a flagrant after the fact. They just let it slide. No penalty, no extra consequence. Nothing added to Wembanyama's record. Now, this is where it starts to matter way more than it seemed at the time. Heading into Game 5, Wembanyama already had 3 flagrant foul points in the postseason. Earlier in the playoffs, he picked up a flagrant 2 and got ejected for an elbow on Naz Reid during the second round. And the rule is simple. 4 flagrant foul points in the playoffs means an automatic 1-game suspension. That put Wembanyama right on the edge going into one of the biggest games of the finals. Then came the third quarter of Game 5, and it happened again. Brunson pulled up from the top of the key for a 3. As he released the shot and came down, Wembanyama stepped into his landing space. If you've watched basketball for years, you already know how serious that is. That rule exists for a reason. It goes all the way back to the Zaza Pachulia and Kawhi Leonard incident in 2017, when a similar play caused a major ankle injury. Since then, the league has made it crystal clear. Defenders cannot step into a shooter's landing space. There's no gray area there. Brunson hit the shot, but the moment he landed, his ankle clearly twisted after coming down on Wembanyama's foot. You could see the reaction instantly. He was in pain. He got up and went straight to the nearest ref, trying to get their attention. Coach Mike Brown came off the bench heated, demanding an explanation, but still nothing. No whistle, no review, no stoppage. And that's when everything exploded online. NBA analyst Tom Haberstroh spoke up right away, pointing out that Brunson had every reason to be upset, given how dangerous that play can be and how big the moment was. Bill Simmons reacted in a way that definitely grabbed attention. And NBA insider Mark Stein added another layer. If that call had been made correctly, Wembanyama would have hit 4 flagrant points and been automatically suspended for a potential Game 6. Think about how big that is. Now, here's where the conversation really starts heating up. If the refs call that play the way the rulebook says, Wembanyama gets suspended and the series likely continues to Game 6. That means another finals game, more attention, more money, more everything for the league. And on top of that, one of the league's biggest young stars stays in the spotlight a little longer instead of facing a suspension headline right before another huge game. So when that whistle didn't come, people noticed. Crew chief Scott Foster and his team kept the game moving, but fans, analysts, and viewers at home all saw the same thing. The league has already said they'll review it, but at that point, the damage, or at least the controversy, was already locked in. And here's the part that makes Brunson's performance hit even harder. He didn't get the call and still made the shot. The Knicks still closed it out. They still won the championship. That's what defines this run. Not just the Brunson won, but how he won, playing through heavy contact, missed calls, and nonstop pressure while still delivering in the biggest moments. Now, shift to the scene after the buzzer because somehow things got even louder than the game itself. The final horn sounded, and instantly the Knicks flooded the court. Confetti started falling inside Frostbank Center as years of frustration finally disappeared in one moment. Brunson stood at center court, taking it all in. His teammates surrounded him from every direction. And at that exact same time, on the other side of the floor, Victor Wembanyama turned and walked straight toward the locker room. No handshake line, no nod to the opposing team, no congratulations to the new champion, just a straight exit while the celebration was still happening. Now, some people are already saying, look, he's 22 years old. He just lost the biggest game of his life in front of his home crowd. Emotions are raw. You can't expect a kid to be perfectly composed in the worst moment of his athletic career so far. That's a fair take, no doubt about it. But here's the flip side that people keep bringing up. This isn't the first time we've seen Wembanyama react like this after a tough loss. Earlier this season, after the NBA Cup Finals loss to the Knicks, there was no handshake line then either. So now, it's not just one emotional moment. It started to look like a pattern. And once people caught on to that, the conversation got louder real fast, and social media lit up instantly. Fans, analysts, former players, everyone had something to say. A lot of them pointed to one simple idea. Even in the toughest losses, the greats have always shown that basic level of respect. You walk the line, you say good game, and you acknowledge the other team. That's not weakness. That's part of being a real competitor who understands the bigger picture. Michael Jordan did it. LeBron James has done it, even after some of the hardest losses of his career. Back in 2011, when LeBron lost to the Mavericks in a moment that followed him for years, he still showed up for that handshake line. And in 2023, when the Nuggets won it all, every player on the losing side still stayed out there and showed respect. That's why this moment stood out so much. Wembanyama didn't do it, didn't even try. He turned and headed straight to the tunnel while the Knicks were celebrating all around him. One fan online summed it up in a way that really caught attention. They pointed out that Wembanyama seemed to have tension with Brunson the entire series, that the Spurs followed his energy, and that skipping the handshake wasn't even new when it came to losses against New York. When you stack all that together, it starts to feel like more than just frustration in one moment. It starts raising questions about how he handles those high-pressure situations. And now, let's be clear about something because this part matters too. Victor Wembanyama is still one of the most talented young players the league has ever seen. His finals numbers back that up: 26 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 3.6 blocks per game. He became the youngest player ever to average at least 25 points in an NBA Finals. At just 22 years old, and only his third season, he led a team that nobody expected to be here all the way to the finals and pushed the series to 5 games. That's not normal. That's special. But here's the reality that comes with that level of talent. How you handle losing matters just as much as how you handle winning. And right now, those two sides aren't fully lined up. Then came the press conference, and this is where everything really took off because walking off the court caught attention. But what happened at the end of that media session, that's what sent the entire basketball world into overdrive. To his credit, Wembanyama did face the media. Here's the continuation with all timestamps removed and professionally punctuated, without adding or removing any content from your script. He didn't dodge questions or disappear completely. He sat there, answered everything, and spoke the way he usually does, calm, thoughtful, and detailed. He even pointed out how thin the margin was in the series. He said the Spurs had stretches where they controlled the game, but their mistakes got punished hard, and they couldn't recover from those swings. I learned the matter. One of many things I learned is the margin of error is very, very thin. Our domination stints are absolute. We absolutely dominated for most of the series, but our errors, our mistakes, are punished so hard that we can't have ups and downs like this so much, you know. He gave credit to the Knicks too, calling them a veteran team that knew how to close games. All of that was honest, accurate, and mature. But then things shifted. A reporter brought up history, comparing his situation to legends. They mentioned that Michael Jordan didn't win his first title until his 7th season, and LeBron James had to wait until his 9th. Both of them faced heavy criticism early in their careers for not winning right away. You understand the history of it. It took Michael 7 years. It took LeBron 9. It took Jerry West 12 years to be a champion. Even the greatest ever, it's not immediate. Wembanyama's response? He said he didn't think the comparison applied to him. Now, you can read that a few different ways. Some people see confidence in that answer. Others hear something else. And then came the moment that took over the internet. As he stood up to leave, wrapping up what had clearly been a tough press conference, he looked at the media and said, "Appreciate y'all. See y'all never. Appreciate y'all. See y'all never." For a second, the room just froze. Then the clip hit social media, and it spread everywhere in minutes. Now, to be fair, there's more than one way to interpret that line. Some people took it as dark humor, a frustrated competitor saying he never wants to be back in that position again. Basically saying next time he's here, it'll be after a win. And honestly, that interpretation isn't crazy. But when you line that moment up with everything else, the walk-off with no handshake, the earlier pattern, the Game 3 shove, the reaction after it, the landing space incident in Game 5 that didn't get called, it starts to build a bigger picture. Not a finished story, but a snapshot of a player still figuring out how to handle the highest level of competition when everything is on the line. Because talent isn't the question here at all. It's about how those intense moments are handled when the spotlight is at its brightest. "See y'all never" is one of those lines that really sticks with you when you think about it. On one side, it comes off petty. It sounds like something you'd hear after a heated pickup game, not from someone being lined up as the future face of the NBA. But on the other side, maybe it means something deeper. Maybe Wembanyama is sending a message that the next time he's on that stage, he's not planning to be on the losing end again. And if that's what's driving him, then the next stretch of his career could get scary for the rest of the league. Because a player with that kind of talent and something to prove, that's a dangerous mix. Now, bring it back to Jalen Brunson, because his reaction through all of this is where the real story of composure comes up. When Wembanyama shoved him in Game 3 and laughed right in his face, Brunson didn't escalate anything. He didn't go back and forth, didn't make it bigger than it needed to be. He just walked away and kept playing. That same night, he dropped 32 points and kept his post-game comments short and controlled. Whatever you saw is what you saw. That's it. No drama, no extra noise. He let the game speak for him. Then Game 5 happens, and the refs miss that dangerous landing space call. Brunson hits the 3 anyway. Even after coming down awkwardly and clearly feeling it, he stayed locked in. He didn't sit there complaining. He got back on defense. And when the moment came, he delivered again with the go-ahead floater in the final minute. That's who he is. That's the mindset of the player who just ended a 50-plus year drought for the Knicks. He doesn't need headlines, doesn't need validation from opponents, and doesn't need a handshake to confirm what he already accomplished. The Finals MVP trophy is real. The championship banner going up in Madison Square Garden is real. That's all the proof needed. And here's something a lot of people need to sit with for a second. There were real analysts, real voices in the basketball world who questioned whether Brunson could actually be the #1 option on a championship team. Too small, not dominant enough, not built to carry a team through the playoffs. This finals erased all of that completely. He led a team to a title in 5 games. He dropped 45 in the closeout game with the weight of New York on his shoulders. He did it against one of the most physically imposing defenders in the league while dealing with heavy contact and missed calls that could have changed everything. And still, he delivered. Now imagine if the roles were flipped. If Brunson was on the Spurs getting hit, getting crowded on landings, and not getting calls, that storyline would be everywhere nonstop. But because it's the Knicks, a team that always brings mixed reactions around the league, there's still some people trying to downplay it. Don't let that slide. What Brunson did in this series deserves full recognition. That performance belongs in the conversation with some of the best playoff runs the game has ever seen. Now, zoom out, because this isn't just about one series. It's about what comes next. For the Knicks, this changes everything. The last championship came in 1973. Think about how long that is. Entire generations of fans have never seen this team win at all until now. That kind of drought doesn't just end quietly. This city is about to celebrate in a massive way. The kind of energy New York hasn't felt around basketball in decades. When that parade hits the streets, it's going to be one of those moments people talk about for years. And for Brunson personally, this locks in his place in history. He's not just a great player now. He's a Knicks legend, no debate. Willis Reed had his iconic moment. Patrick Ewing had his era. But Brunson, he brought the championship, the finals MVP, and a run where he answered every challenge thrown at him. That puts him in a different category. His name is now tied to the biggest moment this franchise has seen in over half a century. That doesn't fade. As for Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs, the future is still very real despite how this ended. There's too much talent there to ignore. Dylan Harper stepped up in a big way during this postseason, playing with confidence way beyond his experience. Stephon Castle showed flashes that hint at something serious developing. And with Wembanyama at the center of it all, this team isn't going anywhere. They're building something that could bring them right back to this stage sooner than people expect. The story doesn't end here, not even close. Wembanyama himself said, "This was the biggest lesson of his life. Biggest lesson of my life, the biggest learning moment. I can't tell exactly what the lesson is, but we're learning from that for sure. I'm learning more than any other time in my life before." That right there tells you he knows this moment mattered on a different level. The losses, the close calls, the emotions after the game, it all hit hard, and it's all part of growth. But growth only works if you keep it real with yourself. And the honest read on Wembanyama's actions in this series, it didn't fully match the level the moment demanded. The physical play on Brunson that kept slipping through without calls, that's something the league is going to have to look at more closely moving forward. The decision to walk off without the handshake, that's something he's going to have to check within himself. In that press conference exit, no matter how it was meant, it came off like a young player still learning how to handle the spotlight at the highest level. That's not tearing him down. It's just calling it what it is. At 22, going through moments like this is part of the process. Jordan had to deal with tough losses before breaking through. LeBron had to take hits early in his career and come back stronger. Wembanyama has the talent to follow that same path, maybe even go beyond it. But that next step, it starts with how he reflects on this moment, because the basketball world is watching closely. And moments like these don't just disappear. They stick. What we just saw in the 2026 NBA Finals was a clash of two completely different mindsets. On one side, Victor Wembanyama, the once-in-a-generation talent, the size, the skill, the player people have been hyping since day one, dominant, exciting, and still putting up historic numbers even in a loss. And on the other side, Jalen Brunson, not the biggest name coming in, not the most physically imposing player on the floor, but the one who stayed steady, stayed locked in, and kept competing no matter what was thrown at him. When Wembanyama shoved him, Brunson didn't react. He just kept playing. When the refs missed that key call, Brunson didn't stop. He made the shot anyway. When Wembanyama walked off without a handshake, Brunson wasn't even paying attention. He was celebrating a championship with his team. And when Wembanyama said, "See y'all never," Brunson was already lifting the trophy. That's the difference. Championship basketball isn't just about talent. It's about mindset. It's about staying focused when things get messy, when calls don't go your way, and when the pressure is at its highest. It's about finding that extra level when everything feels stacked against you. And on that night in San Antonio, Brunson found it. He pushed through everything and delivered when it mattered most. Now, New York has its championship. Brunson has his legacy locked in. And somewhere, Wembanyama is sitting with that 5-word line replaying in his head and a whole lot of motivation building up for what comes next. "See y'all never," he said. We'll see about that. Because if this moment really becomes fuel, the league better be ready for what's coming next. But for now, this belongs to New York. This belongs to Jalen Brunson. And this belongs to every Knicks fan who waited decades to see this happen. The drought is over. And it ended in one of the most intense, physical, and emotional finals runs we've seen in years. One where Brunson didn't just win on the scoreboard. He showed up every single night and proved it through his play and his composure. If you made it all the way to the end, don't just sit there. Jump into the conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. What do you think about Wembanyama's actions? Was that press conference line motivation, or did it cross the line? And what's your take on those missed calls? Were they just mistakes or something bigger? Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with anyone who's been following this final story. This isn't over yet, not even close. There's still the league review, off-season reactions, and whatever Wembanyama says next when he finally speaks on all of this again. So, stay locked in, and I'll catch you on the next one.